This is the Red Podcast.
This is episode number 105. We're talking about timing. Is right now the time to jump in? Is it too early, too late? You'll find out on this episode.
This is the Red Podcast. Real entrepreneur development. Make more money, work less, and live a life of freedom. No BS advice that really works. Here's your hosts, David Hooper and Laurel Staples.
I took our dog outside the other morning and he went straight for the corner of the yard, picked up something in his mouth, and
I don't like where this is going.
I know. I don't like him picking up random things. Usually there's a chicken bone here or there that he sniffs out and finds, and I look down and he looks so happy. He looks happy as a little clam, and I look what's in his mouth, and it's a big pile of frozen dog poop.
Oh, yeah. What'd you do?
I had two options here. I could let my dog either eat this frozen dog poop or play around with it. I don't know what he would have done with it. He looked pretty happy. Or I could pry it out of his mouth. I did. I pried frozen dog poop out of my dog's mouth very early in the morning, and I was not happy.
You're dedicated. A lot of people would have let that go.
Well, he was disappointed.
That's because he's used to me, and I just assume it's always a chicken bone, which I try to get, but you got to have like the jaws of life to pry his mouth open.
Yep.
Not easy.
Yeah, I would rather pull out a chicken bone than what I did pull out. But man, you should have seen the look on his face. It was hilarious.
This is the Red Podcast. Red stands for Real Entrepreneur Development. We help you build an audience, sell more products, make more money, and deal with your hungry dog. We're business optimizers. We show you how to be more efficient in your marketing and find the hidden money that's sitting right in front of you. More importantly, we show you how to live life on your terms. There's a big rumor in the entrepreneurial space. It is the myth of good timing. I started thinking about this because I'm seeing all these companies come out of the woodwork that are all of a sudden valued at millions of dollars. They're getting all sorts of venture capital funding, angel investing. We've even seen this hit Shark Tank, where you've got these guys come in with a .com or an app and ask for crazy money.
And they're pre-revenue.
And they're losing money. Is what they're doing. You couldn't have done this 5, 10 years ago. There are only certain times when it happens, and I think that we're in one of those times. Still, I feel that good timing for business owners, for being successful, I feel that's a myth.
Why do you feel that way?
Because of my experience. I've had the best of times where I've launched something, crashed and burned. At the same time, I've had very successful businesses. I've made the most money in bad times.
So is it that you see a lot of entrepreneurs hanging around waiting for the right time?
Yeah, that happens all the time. Absolutely. You've also got people that are jumping in right now. I don't know that they were waiting, but they're coming into this entrepreneurial space because they think that it's easy. You see somebody with a success story, even on the low scale, even with something like a podcast or a blog, everybody comes in thinking they can do it. How much of your success is good timing? That's what we're going to talk about. And I don't think that it's much. I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. If you're worried about hitting the market at the right time, don't. Because we're going to talk about what success is really built upon. Let's talk about some stories, Laurel. How about good timing, bad outcome stories? You got any for me?
I always think about all the failed social networks. It was great timing for them to come around, but if you haven't heard of them, it means they had a bad outcome. I have a couple that I want to run by you, David, see if you have heard them.
And when was this great timing? It's going on right now. It was a few years ago.
Yeah, 2006 and beyond.
So when Facebook hit, everybody else thought they could get in on this.
Yep. And some people did it really well. Some businesses, some social networks really took off, and others like these did not. Have you heard of The Hub?
I have not.
The Hub is Walmart's social media site for teens.
Ugh, that sounds awful.
It did not take off.
No.
What about...
What do you imagine that the Hub was? Have you been in a Walmart lately?
Not lately.
There's a reason for that. We're in a pretty affluent area of Nashville, and on, I guess, the next neighborhood over, maybe, they somehow built a Walmart. I don't know. But I went there, and I was like, are these people really in our area? It's like Gone County all of a sudden. It's not cosmopolitan at all. I can't imagine a social network like that.
For teens.
Even worse.
Just seems kind of odd.
It's like going to the state fair or something. It's like the worst of, it's everything you don't want.
What about Vital Skate?
Never heard of it.
It was for skaters who didn't want to use mainstream social media.
They're so rebellious. No, we're talking like skateboards, not
I think
ice
so.
skates, roller skates.
I think it's
inline
skateboards.
skating.
Yeah. And those people, they rejected the whole idea anyway. They didn't want their own social media site.
That was smart.
So Vital Skate did not work. I think this one is called Iomu. Iomu?
Well, if you have to ask, you obviously don't know.
No one's heard of that. It's a New Zealand social networking site that they designed for older people. And I'm not quite sure what, quote, older people, unquote, entailed.
That's like me, 40.
Yeah, right. The older people. I know you had to be above 18, and I'm pretty sure you had to fill out like a long application to apply. Anyway, I had never heard of it, but it's a relic site now.
There's another one. It's called Google Plus.
Yeah, I always hated Google Plus.
Look, if Google
Word is
can't do
out.
it, that shows how difficult this is.
That's the thing. Google should be able to do anything, but they keep having good timing but bad outcomes.
Google is actually a really great example of a company that doesn't succeed at a lot of the things that they do, but still succeeds overall. Most of the things that Google does fail miserably. Right now, I've got an app on my iPhone. It's called Inbox. Have you seen Inbox? Some kind of email program?
Mm-mm.
Can't stand it. Take me back to Gmail. It's supposed to make it so I can check email more easily. I don't like to check email on my phone, so it doesn't matter how easy it is to me.
Unless the app actually goes in there, reads your email, replies from your brain, and sends it out and follows up, it's really not going to help me.
There's a trend for everybody to jump on something when there appears to be good timing. For example, the great real estate bubble that we've had in the last few years. Everybody's jumping into real estate, but there's a saying, if people are talking about it at parties, it's too late. It's too late for you. I certainly lost money in the real estate bubble 5 years ago. Things turned around. I still lost money.
Mm-hmm.
That's an example of good timing, bad outcome. Came into a great neighborhood that completely blew up in Nashville. Nobody else, you know this neighborhood I'm talking about.
Sure.
I'm the only house out of hundreds and hundreds of transactions that lost money.
Probably not.
It seems that way.
It feels that way to you since you lost money.
Yeah, these other guys are doubling their money. It's insane. It's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bitty house that was behind me because I had the great big house. And those guys have doubled their money. And I look at it and I think, how the hell did they do it? Good timing, good outcome. Not for me, though. It's not guaranteed.
For you. Well, for those other guys, good timing. Good
Yeah,
outcome.
and best wishes to them. It's not affecting me one bit. That just goes to show, even in good timing, you can still have a bad outcome. But as I hinted earlier, you can also have bad timing, good outcome. The most money I've ever made was in the recession.
Talk about that.
I think it's just good ideas. I think it's just good marketing, the right message at the right time. People are still spending money in a recession. People still have to buy things. People still want to be entertained in a recession. There's a great story, and you'll appreciate this because I've got some of his ads hanging on my wall. Charles Atlas, the old school bodybuilder, started during the Great Depression. This guy was making hand over fist money, had dozens of people just to open his mail. It was all done mail order back then, of course. This guy's making all sorts of money advertising in the back of comic books. You don't need Charles Atlas. You don't need to become a bodybuilder. And this is kids, people who didn't really have money, but they found a way to do it, which just goes to show it's not necessarily just what people need, food, housing, clothing. It's also what they want. That can be very, very powerful.
We're talking about timing in terms of years, in terms of the economy, but it can also be timing within your own life. I've seen a lot of people that started their side business or started their own independent business on the side of their job. And that could be seen as bad timing. Well, I don't have a lot of time to do this. This isn't the right time. I got the baby on the way. I got the mortgage. I got to do this and that. It looks like bad timing within your own life to start it. But the fact that you start it and work on it, it might turn out to be a giant success. So there's bad timing in terms of the years that go by, the year you launch it, how the economy is, but also can be good or bad timing in your life. And it's not correlated to the outcome.
That's something my mother said to me a long time ago. She said, David, there's never the perfect time to buy a house, have a kid, get married, get divorced, do anything, do any of these major life decisions. I've got a friend of mine, she's having a kid, and was telling me the other day how she's not sure she's going to be able to afford it. And I'm thinking, what are you doing then? Why are you having a kid? Why now? That obviously wasn't thought about before she actually got pregnant. It's never a good time. She's going to make it happen, though.
Exactly. I think in that case, it would be bad timing financially. But I think it's going to have a good outcome because she's going to be a good mom and they're going to pull it together and it's going to work out. So again, no correlation between the timing and the outcome.
I know that you've jumped into some businesses too early. You were way ahead of your time.
I absolutely have. I've jumped into businesses too early. I've jumped into the wrong businesses. I've done all kinds of stuff. One of the ones that I feel like I started a little early timing-wise in the sense of the year that I started it was my first full-time venture, which was an eco-friendly men and women's clothing retail store. I brought that to Nashville. This was 2007, which was when the economy crashed. I just have to point that out.
So that wasn't helping you.
That wasn't helping me. So it was bad timing in terms of the economy wasn't helping me. But also I think I was a little early to bring this trend that was going nuts in the Northeast, New York and California. People were on board with the eco-friendly clothing, recycled clothing, organic cotton, all that kind of stuff. But in Nashville, Tennessee, no one had really heard of it and no one really cared.
It was Walmart all the way. People are just going for the price.
I don't think it was Walmart all the way, but you had to inform your customers about what it was and then sell to them. So it was a two-step process. And nowadays, I feel like there's just more awareness of what's going on in those trends and people are looking for that a little more. I still probably wouldn't restart it today because I don't think we're there yet. But I think there's certain places in the country that it wouldn't be too early for. But you do have to look at timing in that sense.
I think that's a great point. In front of us, we've got an iPad that times our show, speaking of timing. And when I think about the iPad and how that launched and how successful it was, you really have to look at timing. First, there was the iPhone. The iPhone wouldn't have worked had we not already been familiar with mobile phones. The mobile phone wouldn't have worked had we not been familiar with regular phones, landline phones. So you can see the progress of that. Landline, mobile phone, iPhone, then iPad. You didn't have to explain what an iPad was. Sometimes, like in the case of this ecologically friendly clothing store, Laurel, timing is going to be on your side when it comes to that. People are already educated. Not to say that you couldn't have been successful otherwise, but because of the timing, educating people is a whole lot easier.
Do you have a story about starting something too early?
Oh, man. Yeah, I got a good one. You've heard of the online retailer called CD Baby.
Yes.
The largest online retailer of independent music in the world. 2 years before CD Baby started, I started a similar business, selling independent music online. Failed miserably. It was awful. I had a huge stock of records in my house, huge stock of CDs. And when I say records, it was really records. People were sending me anything. They just wanted to unload it thinking I was going to be able to sell it. So that was one mistake that I made, just taking anything. But I think the timing wasn't right. People were still used to going in a physical record store. CD Baby came along. I'm not saying it was perfect timing for him, but this is a guy who did everything right. The industry had had a couple of years to grow. It was certainly better timing for him than it was for me, and he was the right guy to do it. Ended up being a company that he sold for $22 million.
Wish you had done that.
Yeah, it would have been a good experience, but it wasn't